Today on the stream, we're going to be talking about George R. R. Martin and him doing everything but writing Winds of Winter, and also some layoffs at Rocksteady, along with the worst decisions in gaming that Phil Spencer has ever made, and they're pretty bad. Before we get into that, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and yeah, let's get into it. George R. R. Martin is one of those people that I consider an amazing writer, and if he would have completed A Song of Ice and Fire, I would have considered him at the level of Tolkien, because his writing is just so good. His character building, his detail, everything's really good about George R. R. Martin. There's only one problem. He doesn't finish his books, and he likes doing everything but writing Winds of Winter, which isn't the last book to Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire, the second to last book. And he also has a show called House of the Dragon. And thankfully, that show does have completed work on it. He just doesn't really like the way it's going. George R. R. Martin, Game of Thrones creator, talks about everything that has gone wrong with House of the Dragon. I do not look forward to other posts I need to write about everything that's gone wrong with House of the Dragon, but I need to do that, and I will, Martin said somewhat ominously. So he's not happy with some of the changes that House of the Dragon has made, and this isn't new. He wasn't really happy the way Game of Thrones went, and a lot of people weren't happy, but the thing that I don't like about George R. R. Martin is that he doesn't take any responsibility whatsoever. Game of Thrones is probably 90% his fault, because he never finished the show. While he can say that he had notes that he had given the showrunners, and apparently it was stacks of notes of what was going to happen in the coming books, notes do not equal a finished product. And a lot of people's opinion, not mine, the show was worse than season 1. So I understand, there was a lot of changes and it was really slow. There was a lot of character development. I understand that a lot of people don't understand that Game of Thrones is a novella, and it's not necessarily this action adventure type of show where there's going to be dragons and people stabbing each other. Yes, there is that in Game of Thrones, but Game of Thrones is more of a novella. The dialogue, the politics, the scheming, the backstabbing, all that. Think of House of Cards. That is literally what Game of Thrones is. That is the core and the essence of Game of Thrones. But there was a lot of changes for this show, considering that there was 8 episodes instead of the usual 10 or 12 episodes. So it felt a lot more slower without an actual peak of where all the action and everything was going to come out, and all the dragon fighting was going to happen in this show. So I'm pretty sure that's going to be his frustration. I'm pretty sure another frustration he's going to have is that the rewrites that he wanted really didn't get put into the show. And one of the reasons, again, George R. R. Martin takes no accountability, is because of the strikes. The strikes are the reason why there weren't more rewrites, and why they didn't go back to make it 1-to-1 or mostly 1-to-1. And another thing, and I hate saying this, of what I think he's going to say of what went wrong in House of Dragon, is that they took a lot of characters out or just made it different, because Rihanna in the books in House of the Dragon really didn't do as much as she's doing now. She really wasn't involved, and that's not really gonna fly in the show. They've also cut characters and replaced them with another character to make that character the same. And yeah, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be the usual book talk thing that people say. It's not like the book, which, get over it. It's never going to be like the book. Books have the luxury of being able to use your imagination, and in movies, you don't use your imagination, you use a budget. So yeah, AI is the next best thing when it comes to technology and even non-technology sectors, and every CEO is trying to get their company to implement AI in some way and some sort. But although AI offers so many things that it can do and so many things that it can help people with, it also endangers people's lives, specifically video game creators, actors, and video game actors. So much so that the Amazon CEO recently put his foot in his mouth and regrets the confusion over AI and voice actor comments after harsh online criticism. Now, this is the definition of putting your foot in your mouth, because what he said is kind of borderline, bro. Why are you saying, is where was your PR agent? Like, why was he not putting his hand over your mouth when you were about to say this? And I quote, "When we talk about AI, first of all, hopefully it will help us to have new gameplay ideas, which has nothing to do with taking work away from anyone, and especially for games. We don't really have acting. The majority of the team sits in programming, and that's not going to go away because that's all about innovation. If it takes something, it will be really the boring parts," he said. So keep in mind, this is the CEO of games, of Amazon Games, saying that there's no acting in video games. First of all, my guy, there's two types of acting in video games. There's voice acting and there's actual motion capture acting, where they have to actually act out the scenes while they voice act in an imaginary room full of green or blue screens. So, Jesus, where was your PR agent? And what makes this worse is that they're in negotiations with the union SAG-AFTRA, and a spokesman and negotiator between SAG-AFTRA and Amazon Games came out and was kind of pissed, and I do not blame her that she was pissed for him saying this, because it is the most short-sighted, dumb, uninformed topic, and embarrassing, considering the fact that you're the CEO of Amazon Games, my guy. You should know this. And I quote, as she quotes, "Games don't really have acting," is a wild statement. "I've devoted most of my life to game performance, just like whole generations of new performers inspired by great game performances before them. Thousands of fans seek out these performers to tell them how much they connect with these characters through their performances and the humanity they bring to them. I'm an actor and a performance director, not a CEO. But it seems to me that several of the largest companies in the world sitting down to negotiate with us aren't doing it for their health. It's because they recognize the proven viability of games that requires human performance, needs union performers. That player connection and emotional investment I mentioned is correlated with billions of dollars. Not all kinds of games require performance, but giving up using actors completely might just represent a significant financial loss, pivot, or sunk loss cost for our bargaining partners. But again, I'm not a fancy business person." When they asked Amazon Games for clarification after this indictment of SAG-AFTRA's negotiating spokesman, and I quote, "As for clarification on what Hartman meant by his comments and for the responses to the fact that games such as New World utilize voice actors," an Amazon spokesman told IGN, "We regret confusion stemming from these comments. Of course, game developed and published by Amazon Games include actors who consider to be essential creative contributors both now and in the future. Like most developers and publishers, we do not keep actors on staff, and Christopher's comments were specific to our internal development teams. As with any tool, we believe generative AI needs to be used responsibly, and we're carefully exploring how we can use it to help solve the technical challenges development teams face." So yeah, the CEO straight up put his foot in his mouth, and it made Amazon Games look really bad. And not only that, but this gives SAG-AFTRA a lot more negotiating power when it comes to AI. And they really should have more negotiating power when it comes to AI. Because I guarantee if these companies can make it to where they can take somebody's jobs in order for them to have more profit in their bank, they would absolutely do it, because that's what companies do. Their giant corporations are there to make money for themselves, for their shareholders. They don't really care about their employees. There's very few, if any, giant corporations that care about their workers. So with a lot of things, every good thing must come to an end, and this is the guy that made Devil May Cry and also Dragon's Dogma and Dragon's Dogma 2, which people love so much. At the end of September 2024, I will be leaving Capcom after 30 years and 5 months, Itsuno said. Thank you for your long-term support of the games and characters I have been responsible for. I hope you will continue to support Capcom's games and characters. From September, I will start developing a new game in a new environment. I hope to create a fun, beautiful games that are as memorable as or even more memorable than the ones I have created so far. Please stay tuned for my next creation. So this guy is like iconic. Like, he's worked on Devil May Cry, he's worked on Dragon's Dogma, he worked his way from being a game planner all the way up to a director, and it's great to see him succeed and him doing everything that he's done for Capcom. I know this is probably a big loss for Capcom. They've been doing really good recently with all the games that they've been remaking and also just revamping and trying to put touches on, and Monster Hunter World has been doing great for them as well, so I'm pretty sure that this is a big loss for them. And yeah, Devil May Cry won't be the same without him, and Dragon's Dogma won't be the same. By the way, he just recently released that game that people love and are playing right now at the moment. So if you love Dragon's Dogma, this guy was responsible for it, and we salute you, and I hope that you make great games wherever you go. So the Batman and Arkham games are laying off some people because they went from creating single-player game experiences that we love to being forced to make a games-as-a-service Suicide Squad game. Rocksteady reportedly lays off staff following Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League flops. Anonymous employees told Eurogamer that the Rocksteady quality assurance team had been cut from 33 to 15 with the poor sales of Suicide Squad, which cost Warner Brothers Discovery a $200 million hit to revenue. Rocksteady management has allegedly acknowledged product quality will take a hit as a result of the layoffs, as remaining Q&A testers struggle to uphold the same standard as the team once doubled in size. The 18 staff members affected reportedly included junior employees and veteran team members who were at the studio more than 5 years. IGN has asked Warner Brothers Discovery for comment, but have not. It seems like almost every month that I make a video, it's been almost back-to-back months since I started this channel, that there is layoffs happening in gaming, and one of the reasons is because of trend chasing, which we'll get into later on. Rocksteady Games is a company that didn't need to make a live service game. What they needed to do was make the games that they were good at, which is Batman games and beat-em-up games or story-driven open-world games, which they've made amazing. Arkham City is a great game. Arkham Asylum is a great game. Batman Arkham is considered one of the best superhero games ever. Like, even Spider-Man 1 and 2 have had a hard time competing with the original rating of the first Batman Arkham. The way to fix this is to stop forcing developers to create things that they're not good at making. If that is something that you want to do, it's because that development team wants to make it and they believe in that game. One of the shining things of Lord of the Rings, and by the way, there's so many shining things of the Lord of the Rings that I love about that movie and that trilogy, but one of them has to be Sir Ian McKellen. He killed the role of Gandalf and he nailed it. And this is a guy who nails all his fictional characters, all his like superhero fantasy. All of them are amazing because he takes them seriously. So this next story makes me extremely happy. Gandalf to appear in The Lord of the Rings The Hunt for Gollum, Ian McKellen asked to return. I've just been told there's going to be more films and Gandalf will be involved, and they hope that I'll be playing him. McKellen said, "When? I don't know what the script is, it's not written yet, so they better be quick. But as long as my legs works and as long as I have air in my lungs, nobody else will be putting that pointy hat on." So one of my favorite shows on Disney Plus has to be WandaVision. That show for Marvel was really good. I think it was the first show that was actually premiered to be a Marvel show. It was a great show. I really liked it. I really liked how weird it was in the first half. I really liked how action-packed it got towards the end. And also everything to do with Wanda and Vision is one of the most beautiful stories in superheroes. So I really enjoyed it. And so they're gonna kind of continue that story with one of the characters, with Agatha. The show's gonna be called Agatha All Along the Wizard. Agatha All Along, and we got some details of what that show is going to be. Agatha All Along has Wizard of Oz vibes, life and death stakes and ramifications for the larger MCU. Her interest is piqued when he begs her to take him on the legendary Witch's Road, a magical gauntlet of trials that, if survived, rewards a witch with what they're missing, and Agatha is missing her powers because Wanda took those motherfuckers. Together, Agatha and this mysterious teen pull together a desperate coven and set off down the road. I'm really interested, look, I'm just gonna say it. Marvel had, before Kevin Feige got his power back and Bob Iger gave him his power back, they kept saying that Marvel shows had ramifications for, the movies and for the entire Marvel universe. And it really didn't play out like that. WandaVision did a little bit, and some other shows did a little bit, but big ramifications, I'm gonna take that with a grain of salt. I hope that they do good, and I hope that the show is good, but I'm taking that with a grain of salt. Shows like Intoria delayed indefinitely on Xbox because Microsoft decided to ignore devs. So Microsoft has been having a lot of porting issues recently, not only because the Xbox Series S is giving a lot of developers troubles, but because of the fact they're just not getting back to developers when it comes to porting their game. And I quote from the developers, "Despite our best efforts and the hard work of our dedicated team, we've encountered challenges that delayed our release on Xbox platform," said in the "We apologize for any disappointment this may cause and sincerely thank you for understanding and patience. As a self-published indie studio, your support means everything to us, and we are dedicated to bringing Intoria to as many players as possible." It didn't explicitly blame Microsoft until fans started asking questions on the Discord official server, which point to Greco didn't hold back. "You can ask Xbox why they haven't answered us for 2 months," they said in response to one fan complaint. "Obviously, they don't care about Intoria and they don't care about you." Xbox, Xbox has been having a rough time, but everybody but Nintendo has been having a rough time when it comes to laying people off, and not only that, but just making bad decisions altogether. Speaking of bad decisions, and Xbox boss Phil Spencer passed on Destiny and Guitar Hero. I've made some of the worst game choices decisions. So not only could he have had platform exclusivity to Destiny, but he could have also had Guitar Hero in general. While Guitar Hero is dead now, it was big for years and it made a lot of money. And I quote Phil Spencer, "I have to be honest, when Destiny 1 came out, and I might have played some of the preview builds that we were doing on Xbox, it didn't really click with me," Spencer said. "I'm not big on PvP. You can see my player history. It's not a lot what I do. And I was a little worried I was going to get thrown into PvP world, and it turns out that's not what it was at all. I've got so many of those," he said. "I've passed on some of the ... I've made some of the worst game choices decisions." So back when the Xbox 360 or the Xbox One, I'm losing count, but it was probably the Xbox One, they had a choice of having Destiny be a platform just exclusive, and they would lock it up from PlayStation and every other platform that wasn't PC. But he didn't do it because it wasn't really his taste. He also did the same thing with Spider-Man, and they had a choice to be able to pick any Marvel superhero that they wanted, and one of them was Spider-Man, but they kind of had high standards. It's like, good luck finding your unicorn. 6 years later, PlayStation made Spider-Man 1 and 2, which make a crap ton of money, and probably one of the best superhero games ever made. So that was a really bad pass-up. Now add Destiny to that. There's one more that he commented on. An interesting one. When this team came down to Redmond, former CEO, Harmonix's CEO, Alex, who's great, love Alex, and he pitches a game where they're actually going to make plastic guitars, and they're going to plug into consoles, and then they're going to sell tracks. Spencer continued explaining how he passed on Guitar Hero. "I'm like, really? Do we really think that's going to work? A few people play Guitar Hero. I hear that turned into a pretty good game. I'm not a regrets type person. Maybe that's a fault of mine. but I passed on so many games that I could look back and he shook his fist. But no, I tried to look forward and be positive about the things that we are doing. And so with Destiny, I just like to celebrate what the team has done. Xbox turned down exclusivity on Destiny, Guitar Hero, Genshin Impact, a choice of Marvel IP, and Grand Theft Auto 3. So not all of those are Phil Spencer's fault, but at least 90% of those, not counting Grand Theft Auto 3, is his fault. And yeah, so these are some... Xbox can't give themselves a break. I'm not sure what's happening with Xbox when it comes to its entire platform. It seems like they have conflicts inside of the company themselves where one person wants one thing, but because Microsoft Games wants another thing and profits, they're not really getting the results that they want. And this will continue to happen until there's an actual core to Xbox in total, like the way it did in the Xbox 360 era. But that era is long gone. We can only hope that one day that Xbox goes back to its glory. But I have to be honest with you, it's not with Phil Spencer, and it's not currently the way it's being run. Because of several console generations where they've come into last while making profit isn't exactly going to be a good record on Phil Spencer, especially when he hasn't made any progress with the Xbox Game Pass that is stagnantly growing steadily and small and not going to meet and the numbers that they want in order for it to be profitable without raising the prices, which ultimately, in my opinion, will hurt the service and Xbox in total. And now for our main story, Concord, a game that took almost 8 years of development and $100 million of rumored budget to the entire game, only for it to come out and be closed within 2 weeks and launching to an abysmal 300 to 600 player peak concurrent players on Steam. The game has only sold 25,000 copies and has only made $1 million in revenue, which, when you take into account that the game costs $100 million to make, that is not a good thing. Announced on the PlayStation blog, Director Ryan Ellis said, while many qualities of the experience resonated with players, we also recognize that the other aspects of the game and our initial launch didn't land the way we intended. Concord will therefore be taken offline so Sony and developer Fireworks Studios can explore options, including those that will better reach our players. So effectively, by Saturday, the game will be offline and will be offering refunds as of now. The question is why this keeps happening and why a game like Concord that's really fun, but honestly has janky-ass looking art, is suffering and not doing as good as it should. Because to be real, under all the stuff that is under Concord, there is a really fun game and I think has really fun mechanics that are unique to the hero shooter genre. And I think the biggest one out of all of them is the fact if you go 7 to 8 years in the past, the game that came out of nowhere and started dominating was Overwatch. And so naturally, PlayStation wanted, or the developers wanted, a game that was going to be like Overwatch in order to capitalize on the fact that people were wanting that type of game. But the problem is that it took 7 to 8 years, $100 million budget, only for them to come into a market that's already oversaturated with hero shooters and free to play. This game had a $39.99 price tag, which is issue number 2. If you're going to introduce a game that is supposed to compete with these games but have a price tag on it, most people aren't going to buy that, and me included, and I believed in this title and thought that it was actually going to be a really good game. But when you take into account that the rest of the market does this for free, and you want the players to risk the fact to pay money when they don't know if this game is going to be successful or not, was a mistake, and they know it was a mistake. So when they say they're going to take it offline in order to explore more options, more than likely this game will come free to play. The third and final issue, in my opinion, is the fact that this game launched on PlayStation, and only PlayStation and PC. This game needed to be on everything. It needed to be on PlayStation, PC, Xbox, Nintendo Switch if you can, and it really hurt the fact that there was not more players to get more feedback. But on top of that, I don't think PlayStation really believed in this game because the marketing was really bad. The marketing on this game, I maybe heard of this game a couple of times outside of me looking at game stories. I saw a commercial on TikTok maybe once or twice, but other than that, it really felt like PlayStation just wanted to wash their hands of just games as a service in general and go back to the way they used to. The question is, why even release it at all? You could have done what you've done with The Last of Us multiplayer and just said, you know what, we're not going to release this. The developers don't want to do it, and on top of that, we don't believe that this game will be good, so bye. I think it says a lot when game developers make a game because they want to follow trends instead of making a game that they really believe in. Games don't become hits and world sensations because they want to make money and chase a trend. They make money because it's a good game that developers believe in. Trying to make a game in like Apex or Fortnite is going into failure. If you don't believe in that game and that's what you want to do and bring a new spin on it because you love this type of game, it's not going to work. Forcing developers that don't want to do these types of games, like we talked a little while ago with Arkham and Suicide Squad with Rocksteady Studios, and forcing them to make games that they really aren't accustomed to making is also a recipe for disaster. PlayStation had the formula, and they've had the formula for the last 15 years. Let game developers be passionate about games and take risks to games that they want to make. And if that so happens to be an online game, then so be it. But trying to follow a trend is a recipe for disaster, and we've seen it. And because of game companies and game developers trying to do that and trying to follow that, will continue to hurt the industry as a whole, and layoffs, and more than likely inevitable for Firewalk Studios, which I hope does not get closed down because it clearly has a lot of talent from what I played in the game. It's just they made a lot of mistakes, and they made big mistakes as we went over. I hope you guys enjoy the show. I called it the stream a little while ago for some reason, but I hope you guys enjoy the show. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what you think in the comment section. Do you think that free-to-play games that are following trends are a good thing or a bad thing? Do you think that Firewalk Studios is going to be closed? And yeah, let me know what you think of the comment section. And remember, you're pretty good.